Hi folks, Jennifer Nelson here with Pocket Hours. Pocket Hours is the only podcast made by realtors for realtors. Come listen as I interview high-producing brokers to hear their best practices. And don't forget that while you are listening, you are also earning clock hour credit. Tune in every other week to hear from someone new, and please remember to tell your broker friends about Pocket Hours so more folks can elevate their business. Be the agent you would hire. Looking forward to having you listen in. Good morning, folks. Jennifer Nelson here with Pocket Hours. I have the privilege this morning of interviewing Dr. Sierra Storm. Dr. Storm is a friend of mine, and once a year on Pocket Hours, we are going to be interviewing someone outside of the real estate industry to hear best practices from them. Lots of tie over, as you'll get to hear in this interview. A couple things that she talks about, as you're about to hear, is setting goals in alignment with who you are and what you value. Seems like a simple concept, but actually we are told often in real estate about what we should be doing instead of asking good questions about what's right in my world, what works, what do I love, and then pursuing that within your real estate career. There are so many gems in this interview. Can't wait to have you hear from Dr. Storm. Here we go. I'm so happy this morning on Pocket Hours, I get to interview a good friend of mine. Dr. Sierra Storm with the Rise Collective is on the show today. And for those of you listening in, we once a year on Pocket Hours get to interview somebody outside of our industry to be able to hear practices and things that they do that help them be productive. And I couldn't be happier that our first interview of this Pocket Hours tradition is Dr. Sierra Storm. Welcome, and welcome to Pocket Hours.
Thanks, Jen. I'm honored to be your once a year outside of the realm of real estate guest. And I just love our conversations all the time. So I'm really excited to sit with you this morning and get to have a chat.
Yay. Thank you
Thanks
for
for
your
having
time.
me.
I appreciate it. Of course, of course. So basically, the beginning of this conversation, I just want to find out a little bit more about you and sort of your life. And then we're going to kind of go into what drew you into being in the field that you're in. Then we'll transition into some best practices and things that you do, you think that help contribute to your success. So I knew you when you first started this baby business that you're in, but tell us just a little bit, who is Sierra Storm outside of being a naturopathic doctor?
I was raised in Colorado. We have that in common as well.
Mm-hmm.
Raised in Colorado, my dad was a doctor, and that definitely came into me kind of journeying on the path that I ended up journeying on. I thought for a while I was going to go into what I will call regular medicine, MD route. But in college, I had some health conditions come up that really were not solved by a traditional medical approach and left me fairly disillusioned and feeling quite alone in some very confusing health conditions. So by the time I was a junior in college, I decided I was not going to go that route anymore. I didn't really believe in it anymore. I had like a dark night of the soul at 21 years old, and was like, fine, I'm going to sort out what I want to do. I'm going to take a year off. I moved to the beaches of Santa Barbara from a Craigslist ad that I found from 7 members of the UCSB dance team. I ended up moving sight unseen across the country, which I think is actually quite like my personality. I am kind of a leap and then look type of a human, which I think there are strengths and weaknesses to that, but definitely played into my overall path. And then while I was in Santa Barbara bartending on the beach, I ran into this like 85-year-old German guy who would come into my bar every morning at 9 a.m., drink 2 Foster's beers. And he got to know me fairly well because we spent 5 days together every week. And he was like, well, have you looked at naturopathic school? And I'd never even heard that word. And I was like, I don't know. So I Googled it, found Bastyr, which is up here in Seattle, got on a plane, again, look before you leave kind of a thing, or leap before you look, and came and visited the campus. I was really impressed by how they walked their walk. They put all of the students in hazmat gear to do growth lab. Gross anatomy is where we dissect and learn anatomy in real life. And
you call it gross lab? I love that.
It's literally called gross lab. It's an appropriate title.
Perfect.
Yeah, but they really were protecting people from the toxic exposure of the formaldehyde. So they were practicing with their students what we would then preach and practice as physicians. And I was so impressed with the integrity of that. So that's kind of how I got up into Seattle and into naturopathic school. Within probably 12 months in school, I'd learned enough to fix a lot of those underlying health conditions that were still at play for me. And I was sort of off to the races. I really found what I loved. And then I was at the end of that, I studied for 2 years with another doctor. I shadowed her, became her medical assistant, and then her intern. I was supposed to go into practice with her. But right as that was supposed to happen, I just graduated. I was supposed to start in January in her clinic. Her clinic folded and I broke my arm in a mountain biking accident
Oh boy.
within like a couple of months. So all of a sudden, like I didn't have the job I thought I was going to do. And I had this broken arm and they had recommended surgery. I really didn't want to go that route. I was already steeped in natural medicine. So I was like, there's got to be something that more is in line with my philosophy that I can use to heal this shoulder. I found this doctor in Bellevue who did these more natural regenerative injections. Within 2 appointments, I was out of a sling on the beaches of the south of France, carrying my own luggage. And I was like, this, like,
Wow.
this is what I want to do.
It narrowed your scope, right? Essentially.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it. There was that like kismet feeling of like, this is magnetizing me.
Nice.
So from that point on, I started sort of changing the trajectory of what I wanted to focus on in practice to a pain specialty practice
Hmm.
and an orthopedic practice. And that's sort of, I think, a little bit about who I am and a lot about like how I got here.
Yeah,
And
for
then,
sure.
yeah. So I was practicing in other people's clinics for, I think, about 6 years. And then in 2018, I started the Rise Collective. I opened a different space and a new practice. And over the last 4 years, we've been building a pretty incredible team of women badass practitioners
Love it.
who are in multidisciplinary fields, so chiropractic, massage, esthetician, another naturopathic doctor, and we have sort of formed this like deep to my heart collaboration with some of the best women I've ever met. So I feel like I'm living my dream life
No
a lot
doubt.
of the time. Yeah, I feel very,
That's
very
fun.
lucky and very present to how incredibly it's unfolded.
And I got the privilege of helping Dr. Sierra buy the building that she had been since renting up in that whole time. And so you even own the building, like you're kind of a badass. Let's just say it out loud.
And from the help of the incredible people in my life, like even I remember opening Rise and just looking around and being like, how many people were so integral. Like we are such a community and such a network, and we're so interdependent on each other. You have played a huge role in multiple parts of this sort of like
Thank
even
you.
just finding the rental building. You helped me hook up with another agent. Like, I mean, you've just been so integral in that. So yeah, I've been lucky to come across incredible people like you who have
It's been
just
fun to watch you just grow into where you are. And the Rise Collective is just a really classy organization with great people in it. Like there's not one person in there that doesn't like isn't really, really good at what they do. And
oh,
that's
thank
like
you.
how, it's rare to find that, I think, in a practice where you have everybody that's really at the top of their game. So congrats to you
Thank you.
for what
Really
you've
present
built.
to that. And I feel the same about Scout and what you're
Oh,
doing right
thank you.
now. So like see you and really respect that as well with what you're doing and just the journey you've been on. It's been
Oh, thank you.
amazing to watch too. Yeah.
Thank you. And I want to know, so I love that you're 21 and you're your personality, right? So combo of young and sort of like, hey, let's go here, let's do this, drop everything, kind of figure it out. And that's still who you are. You're a go-getter, very driven, and yet you're like, hey, let's not miss an opportunity to experience life. And so outside of healing people, which you do, what else do you do? Like, what do you do for fun? Because you do lots of fun things. I know that.
Frankly, that is the way I want to live my life. I very much integrate it into my practice. I look at my practice as a way to facilitate a very well rounded, well balanced life that allows me to take all the joy that I can in what's on offer in this life,
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah.
I think they go quite well together because in the rejuvenation part and the fun part and the travel part, I actually become a more present practitioner. When I come back, I am really like, because I don't let myself get too exhausted or too burnt out, which is huge in the medical field. It's one of our biggest problems. When I am in the office, I am in front of you completely. I am yours in that time. And I think the kind of inflow outflow of having really dedicated work time that I take incredibly seriously and very dedicated rest, rejuvenation, travel, and fun time allows both of the parts of the life to work a little bit better. So I do a lot of stuff in my free time. I am an avid traveler. I'm very much a yes person. So when the opportunity presents itself, I'm gonna make it happen. So I travel all over the place. I'm just getting back from Mexico City and this little beach town called Huatulco on the Pacific side of Mexico. I hike a lot. Last year, I did a 52 hike challenge where every single week I was out in the mountains for at least 4 miles and 2,000 feet of elevation,
Nice.
which was an incredible exercise in both discipline and rest and incorporating nature into my life
Hmm.
even more, really making that a priority.
And before you go on, I want to say this. You posted on Instagram every single hike you did. So a lot of people followed that, right? This was the goal you set out at the beginning of the year to say every single week I'm going to go for a hike. Like you just said, those were your parameters around the minimum part of that. But
Yes,
that you did it. You did 52 hikes in that year, which is a lot of hikes. But I
it
want to
was.
dig in just a little deeper to that because I know there are weeks when you were like, I don't want to hike. I just did 15 hikes, 15 miles last week. I'm kind of done. I know I said I was going to do this. What made you go? And what came out of those moments when you didn't want to go and went anyway?
Yeah, great questions. So I think the first thing is that I set a goal I was very in line with,
Hmm.
right? And I actually think that's one of the most important things we can look at when we're setting goals. Like, why am I setting this goal? And does it actually fit who I am as a person? So you want to set up your parameter from the beginning to know yourself.
Hmm. Sort of in
Um,
alignment, you mean with yourself?
yeah, in alignment with
Okay.
yourself. Like, what if I hated hiking? And I was like, I'm
Right.
gonna hike 52 times. Like that would just
Right.
I would
Go.
be setting
Yes.
myself up for, no pun intended, quite an uphill battle.
Yep.
So the first thing is that I love to hike and I know that I am restored by hiking and I know that my life feels better when I do. So already sort of setting myself up for success on that one. But yeah, there were absolutely some rainy, terrible, freezing, snowy, sleety,
I
muddy,
bet. Uh-huh.
awful days. I learned actually a lot from that. The first is that I didn't regret a single one. Even those terrible, terrible days, I knew if I could start it, the end, I was going to feel fantastic. I really, really was. So I got to rely on that. I was using that exercise as a way to prove to myself that I can do hard things even when
Mm,
they're hard.
mm-hmm.
So I had that in the back of my mind as a, not suffering, but discomfort is going to be part of this process. And I'm using that therapeutically. And then the third thing I actually learned from that is that I don't want to hike in terrible conditions. So so
Love that.
coming out of that goal, I was like, I don't think that another goal like this will serve me in the same way because I
Mm,
don't want to start to hate hiking.
mm-hmm.
So that was really important for me too because I think that that comes up a lot in life. We get so regimented about the stuff we love or doing the right thing that it becomes unenjoyable and then we lose this really fabulous tool that we have
Yep.
creating joy and growth and relaxation in our lives. So I didn't want to militarize hiking and make it a drudgery instead. So it was really important to complete that goal for me for the lessons in fortitude and discipline and keeping my word.
Mm-hmm.
But I also then was like, cool, I know I can do those things. I'm not
Yeah,
going to
done.
hike in the slush anymore. Just so good. We're good.
I
We're
love it.
done. Yeah.
One of the things you did was make that a public goal. And
Yeah.
so that added a little, not a little, probably some accountability for you
Yeah.
in that, hey, I said this out loud. People know I said I was going to do it and they rely. I mean, I became a person that was like, okay, well, what did Sierra do last week? Like I was
Heard it.
looking for it. Yeah. Not so much to see if you did it, but I was excited to see what your next adventure was.
Mhm.
So I guess, was that on purpose that you made that a public goal? And do you think that helped you get out there?
Yes, it was on purpose for my own accountability, probably more than other people's, but also for the memoir of it. It became a scrapbook for me,
Yeah,
right?
for
And I
sure.
actually think I used it more as an internal tool than an external accountability tool.
Huh.
If you know
Okay.
Gretchen Rubin's, different personality types of some kind, there's like the
Okay.
upholder and the,
Yeah.
do you know have you heard about these? So
Yes.
there are some people that really operate well on having outside accountability. And there are some people that actually rebel against
Yeah.
outside accountability. And I actually fall into the other camp. I don't want to be upholden to someone else as much as I want to be accountable to myself. So actually, I had to overcome in some ways other people following that journey,
Yep.
which is kind
Yep.
of interesting. But it still did give me accountability in that same way that um, so I have a meditation app that will give me, it gives you a streak, right? Like you've completed 300 days and then you can't
Yep.
miss the 301st freaking day, man.
Exactly.
Like, what are you going to do? That would crush my soul. So in that way, it definitely helps with my accountability.
Yeah, makes sense. Well,
Yeah.
congratulations. I said that to you at the end of that year too, but what an incredible thing to accomplish. And I love that what you're saying here is that the fact that it was public was sort of just because you wanted to scrapbook it and make a memory of it. It was less about other people watching it. It was more about I want to keep track of this for myself. And
Yeah.
that internal accountability is really what got you up and got what, made you walk through slush and go do it every single time. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
There was a really cool part of sharing that journey. I actually ended up meeting a lot of friends that year that I ended up hiking with because they could see this thing that was going on. They'd be like, "Oh, I hike too." And I have some really deep, close friendships now of people who are just like, "This girl's hiking. I guess I'll come along." Right.
Love it.
And
Yeah.
that created relationship in a really beautiful way. So it was an interdependent journey for sure, but
Hmm.
less for accountability.
I guess I just don't want to pass that comment by because I think that was so important. What you just said is that when we do speak out loud what we want in that vulnerable way, there people come out of the woodwork to support, to walk alongside, and there's no way for them to know that unless we are vulnerable enough to share that sort of goal and that sort of I'm going to try this hard thing and I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. And as soon as we say it, people are like, "Oh, I want to walk with you, right? I want to hike with you. I
Yeah.
want to support you. I want to encourage you." And that could be lost without that vulnerability. So
Oh
very
yeah, Jen,
cool.
that just gave me chills. It's so real. It's so
Yeah.
real. It's
Yeah.
amazing what happens when you open yourself up to people and
Hmm.
allow them to fall in and be support. It really is. That's very true. Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Congrats. So before Bastyr, you were bartending on a beach. I love that. Was there any other like funny jobs that you had prior to doing what you're doing now besides bartending on a beach?
There were, but I actually want to go, I want to dive into that one a little bit
Yeah.
because I was the first female bartender at that
Oh,
particular bar because so they were
dynamite.
like, we can't hire women because they can't lift the kegs. And I was
Hmm.
like, I can lift your keg. And I went in the back and I lifted the freaking keg and I was like,
Done. Yeah.
you're gonna give me this job.
Not hard. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
not hard. Like that's a really cool way for you not to have
Yeah.
equality in your business, but
Totally. Yeah.
we're not gonna do that anymore. So first female daytime bartender there, I was left entirely on my own. Other weird jobs. I worked in a toy store when I was
Okay.
like 14, and it was like one of those Waldorfy weird, everything's made handmade and it's like wax, beeswax crayons and all this weird stuff. And
Wow.
no one came into this store.
Wow.
No one
Scary.
ever came in. So I was just sitting there, and they staffed two of us to help with the rush, right? And I was like, there was something about my deep need for efficiency and despair about redundancy that I ended up generally just reading in the back of this store. I was just like reading the books in the back. It's the only job I got fired for, and I kind of stand by it.
Yeah.
Because
Good
like
job. Well
I
done.
just like what else do you want me to do? You just
Hmm.
I don't even know. So Morton's
Seriously.
toy store.
I love that, first of all, you're 14, which is that even legal? But okay.
I
Was
really
it?
wanted to go on a trip, Jen, and I
Oh.
really wanted to go. And I was like, I'm going on this. And I was like, all right, find a way to pay for it. And I was like,
It's almost like a horror movie or something, like you sitting in a toy store reading
it
in the
was a
back and
dark,
there's
weird toy store
okay,
too.
and there's no kids in the store. Like I feel like something ominous is about to happen. I love it.
Yeah, it was very weird. I don't know how that place stayed in business, but they definitely couldn't afford to pay two people to sit there for no reason.
You had to
So
read. I love it.
yeah.
Okay, so you get to Bastyr, you work in some other people's clinic, you get to be someone's mentee. You basically fall in love with the work that you're now doing based on experiences that you had in your life that left you saying this can't be all there is to help people, right? Like,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
not to sort of downplay Western medicine, because there's parts about that that are super important and help people, but it's a bigger world, right? It's a bigger world. There are other options to
Yeah.
help people. And so you've narrowed it down to really working with athletes and other people too. Tell us a little bit about the narrowing down part.
So I learned a ton working in clinics with other people. I was very, very lucky to be mentored in a lot of incredible ways on both sides of like the business and also being in patient care. So I learned a lot through that. As far as narrowing down my specialty, I think partially that also comes back to my personality. I really do value efficiency and fast results. Naturopathic care is so deep to my heart and to the way that I practice. I incorporate a lot of it, but primarily it's a lot of lifestyle care. So it's like change your diet and your sleep and your stress, and you are going to feel way, way, way better. But it's going to take like 6 to 8 months for you to notice the change in the tide,
Hmm.
right? And I'm someone who personally really likes fast results. So I think that when I found injection therapy and I could inject someone's scar and they would get off the table and be like, my knee pain is 80% better, I was like,
Hmm.
this is my jam. Like, I just want to do this all day, every day.
Yeah.
People joke about how much I love needles, but I sincerely think that they're magic. And I understand why other people do not like them. I really love them. So partially it was like this treatment modality feels in alignment and I felt like I was good at it.
Hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
a really easy thing to kind of get into more. As far as it being in the pool of other more standard treatments for joint pain or musculoskeletal conditions, I think that we are all unique human beings. And so each solution is going to depend on the person. There are people who actually want to just have the surgery and like have it be over and done with. And there are a lot of people who are like, I want to avoid surgery at all costs. That's where I was when I had my mountain biking accident. I don't want to go under general anesthesia, have metal put into my body, then have a 3 month recovery period, then go into PT. Like that just really didn't resonate with who I am. If I needed to have surgery, I would have had it. But I really believe that there are modalities that should come way before that. And so being able to offer both an alternative that might fit someone better than the what would be the standard of care approach. I really enjoy giving people choice and options. I, as a person, really enjoy choice and options, right? And
Yes.
being able to weigh that against what is right for me. So I like saying like you can do these routes. You can do any of them that feels personally resonant. Here's like the pros and cons of each. Here's how effective they might be. So I think Western medicine is phenomenal for emergency care. Like, please do not come into my office if you have your femur bone is outside your body. Like, I'm not gonna be able to do
Ew.
anything about it. Yeah, that's not it. That's
Ew.
not where you come
Heebie-jeebies.
for that,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
go to the hospital for that.
Mm-hmm.
But in that kind of interim between, like, I've just started to have pain and my joint has completely melted with arthritis, there's a lot that we can do to get people back on their feet and feeling no pain.
Hmm.
And then the second half of my job that's really interesting. So I work in both the preventing surgery realm and
Mm-hmm.
then in the post-op realm, because what happens when we have surgery and we create scar tissue around a healing incision is that scar tissue can tighten in a really unhelpful way and mess with the mechanics of the body to both recreate the pain we had pre-surgery and also even add to new pain.
Hmm.
So a lot of what I'm
Fantastic.
doing, yeah, it's a real bummer,
Yeah.
particularly if you have not been told there are other options than surgery.
Yeah.
Or if it was a surgery that was emergent, right? You didn't really have choice. We have a lot of trauma associated with that.
Yeah. Yep.
So so I feel very strongly about both being able to offer options before you need to approach surgery, but then also helping people process the emotional and physical trauma and compounding results of having a surgery.
Pocket Hours is brought to you by Scout Real Estate. Hi, I'm Jennifer Nelson, owner at Scout Real Estate. I started this firm with the vision of doing things differently, with our focus on legendary service for our clients and creating a community of producing agents to spur each other to do higher quality work. If you are interested in learning more about how a small group of like-minded brokers have come together to have some fun while doing a lot of business, reach out to me, 206-227 7966 or email jennifer@scoutrealestate.com. I promise you this, fun is a high priority for me, but so is winning. So if you appreciate those two things, you might be interested in Scout. Looking forward to hearing from you. Both Sarah and I were in a networking group together for several years. And I remember one of the first times she stood up to speak and present in that group, you had mentioned something about how Western medicine, medical doctors have a certain number of hours that they have to complete in order to start practicing, right? In order to start seeing patients. And then naturopathic doctors, and sort of showed that on a screen that actually naturopathic doctors have considerably more time education and more hours to be able to practice. And yet, right, stereotypically, we're like, well, are naturopathic doctors really doctors or not?
Yeah.
And so it's a funny stereotype that I think we're making our way through.
Yeah.
Because people are starting to see results and get different kind of care when they walk into your office, as opposed to a 12-minute visit with a medical doctor. Again, no offense to medical doctors, but
none at
right,
all.
it's just a different
model,
system.
Right?
Yeah, it's a different system. So
I remember that talk. That's specifically in nutrition.
okay.
So they get very, very minimal recommendations in nutrition, but then they're treating things like diabetes, which is really sincerely, or type 2 diabetes is really sincerely a diet-based illness, right? So they don't actually have a lot of training in correcting dietary protocols for something like that. And then they're thrown into the water and are trying to help people through this. So we have a significantly higher, and I'm not remembering the data right now. We have a significantly higher average amount of learning we do around nutrition for healing and health.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how much that plays into every part of our life, right? Like what we eat.
Yeah.
Wow.
I still address diet with every single patient that comes in with a knee injury, because I'm like, this relates to the inflammation level in your body, and that relates to how you're going to be able to heal from this treatment. So if you're just eating McDonald's and I'm injecting your joint, first of all, it's going to be way more painful because you're pro-inflamed, right? Your body is in a very inflamed state. And second, it's not going to work as well because your circulatory system doesn't work as well. So there's no way to treat the outside of the body, in my mind, without addressing internal imbalance at the same time.
Yep.
Really matters.
Let's transition a little bit. So this Pocket Hours is traditionally, obviously I sell real estate, so it's made by a broker for brokers. Yeah. And most of the time we're interviewing other real estate professionals that are high producing agents to talk about sort of practices that they have in place that got them to where they are now.
Yeah.
So there's 34,000 licensed realtors in Washington state. Yikes, wow. A ton. Yeah. And as always, in any field, 80% of them make, less than $50,000 a year, and 20% of them make the rest of the money. And so we want to find out what those 20% do that's different than the 80%, right? Yeah. And so you have found your way fairly quickly to running Rise Collective, and are quite successful at what you do. So I'd love for the listeners to hear, because what we're trying to do is to say there are some practices, regardless of your industry, right, that are the same. Are there things that you think you do that have benefited you to get where you are today?
Absolutely. So I'm going to take you back to year 1 in practice. I think I've told you this story.
Okay.
So my first year in practice, I was intended for this internship. That clinic folded. So I needed to then find another place to practice on quite short notice. They don't teach you anything about business in medical school at all. They assume you'll go get a job, right? But they're not telling you what to think about in any realm in business. So I negotiated the worst contract of my entire life in that first position. So it was a rent base plus a percentage base. So you have to meet this rental rate every single month. Okay. In addition to that, we're going to take half your income.
Wow.
Right? I made 9 cents my first year in practice.
Wow. Congratulations.
So
that
I just
is
want
a
to
record.
Start us off there. Yeah. Paid no taxes that year. So that's where I started. And my partner at the time was also deployed in Afghanistan. So that was one of the darkest moments I've had. The only way I know to deal with discomfort like that is to search for solution. So I was reading voraciously. I was taking classes voraciously. I was just like, I can't be here again next year at this time. Like I will do anything not to be here. I came across a book called Three Simple Steps
Hmm.
by Trevor Blake. The subtitle is like a map to life, to success in business and life. And he talks about three principles in that book. This was the beginning of me having some kind of rudder to steer business, right? This is like the only thing I had. There are three tenets of it. The first is meditate. The second is protect your mentality. And the third is spend time in nature. The middle one talks about strategies for basically putting your, if you have a goal,
Hmm.
you put your blinders on and you work to that goal. He actually recommends not even telling people about the goal, which is funny given what we started talking about
Yeah.
with the hiking. But he says, don't tell anyone. The best ideas can die in their infancy with someone's off the cuff negative remark, like, oh, we're about to have a recession, terrible time to start a business. And this dream that we have, or this idea we've just had, we doubt ourselves and we question it,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah,
So his
it's true.
advice is like, get very quiet in the mornings and meditate, get rigorous about putting blinders on and advancing towards what you want, no matter what other people say is possible. And then spend time in nature. He's like, that is the place where you regenerate and where ideas come from. Like if you get silent and you prep your brain for it and you go for a walk in the woods, I don't know if you've experienced this, but I get all sorts of ideas when I'm out
Hmm.
hiking or on a walk in the woods, right?
Yep.
So that was my first moment into like, I have this strategy. It was like kind of an ethereal strategy. It wasn't like, here's your business plan, right? It was just like, but I found personally that the external circumstance is 98% a reflection of my internal environment.
Hmm.
So from there, I started doing gratitude practice, which was just really getting conscious about what things are going right. How much time is my brain spending on what's wrong versus what's going right? And creating a brain that sees what's going well,
Hmm.
because that creates momentum.
Which is a practice. Like we're somehow just geared toward
Yes.
finding what's wrong. Our society teaches that. Maybe we grew up with parents that taught us that, whatever. But it seems like it's super easy to identify what's wrong. So I love that you just said, what's going right?
Yeah.
What's right? And asking that question instead, right? We already know what's wrong. Got it, right?
Yeah.
But what's right? And even if it's like, what's right is that I got up before 9 a.m. this morning, right? Maybe that's what's right today. Maybe I took a 20-minute walk. Yay, that's right, right?
Yeah. In my very sad first year of practice, I remember I
Yeah.
had this fireplace in the corner that would turn on with the light of a button. It's like a light switch would turn it on. I don't know how many times I wrote down that that was what I was grateful for because I was like scraping the bottom of the barrel at the end. I'm like,
Hey,
well,
yep.
I don't have to make a fire from scratch. So that's pretty cool.
That's so great.
Our default absolutely is to scan our environment for survival. And we survive by identifying the threat as quickly as possible. So we are biologically looking for what is wrong so that we can survive it and not get surprised by it.
Hmm.
So in our modern world now, we really have to shift that into
Yeah.
being able to see what's going well.
Yeah. We don't have lions chasing us to eat us. So
No,
we're okay.
just email and
Just
terrible
Facebook.
deadlines, just Facebook.
Social
Sometimes feels
media.
the same. Yeah.
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 Again, for brokers listening to this call, I hope you're picking up what I'm picking up too, which is to say that your mindset is so important in real estate. So if you want to be a more successful realtor and you continue to believe that the market is going to make or break you, well, guess what? The market will make or break you, right? If you
Yeah.
believe you can create relationships and a database that is sort of like they think you're the best, then that's what
Yeah.
you'll create. So your mindset around that is hugely important. Tell me again, 3 steps to what's the name of the book?
Three simple steps.
So, oh, wow. See, I forgot the simple word. There you go. What?
Yeah. Three simple steps by Trevor Blake.
Trevor Blake. Great. So
Yeah.
write that down, folks that are listening. Okay.
Yeah.
So meditation, gratitudes, having a mindset of asking the question, what's right?
Yeah. What's
And
going well?
then moving your body, getting out in nature.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
love it.
pretty good one.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the base. And then I'd say there are probably three other things that really changed the way that I'm able to focus and perform. From gratitude writing, I stumbled on another technique, which is there are lots of words for this. I'll use the word like scripting. So generally now I'll write a couple of things that I'm just feeling particularly in alignment with gratitude with, like damn, this coffee is so good today. I don't even like, I don't know what happened to this coffee, but it's the best coffee. Like, I'm so grateful for that. Or even just the moment to have this moment in quiet on my own. I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful for that a lot. Right. So I'll write what present day I'm feeling grateful for, but I will write almost every day in the big areas of my life, relationships, business, health, exactly how I want that to go. Like, what is my ideal to the T scenario for this, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my business, that looks like every day that I work, I arrive to a full schedule of patients I am giddy to see. Like, I can't wait to see them, to know how they're doing, to laugh with them, to get
Mm-hmm.
some incredible results when they're on the table. I am so grateful to be able to witness their ease and joy and healing. They are delighted with the care that they're getting from me. The office feels incredible. Every single one of our practitioners are happy and thriving and joking around with each other. It feels really good walking in. When I look to my schedule next week, it's also full of people I can't wait to see. That happens via word of mouth. I don't spend time on marketing. I write exactly how the best possible version of this area of my life will go.
Mm-hmm.
That changed the dial for me unexpectedly. Like what has come out of that has been incredible on a regular basis. Income, 150% up or
Hmm.
doubling by the next year. That made actual numbers change for me. And I implemented that. And then the second part of this, so I came across something, I'm going to get a little bit woo woo. I
We love
came
woo woo.
across something called human design. It's like astrology, it's like the Enneagram. It's how
Yeah.
do we understand ourselves in the complex world of people who are the same and different
Yeah.
than us. And there are different personality types in that system too. And within that context, they talk a lot about how to be effective and efficient. And I'm something called a generator under that philosophy. And generators should only do work when they feel lit up about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not supposed to be in the drudgery of the thing, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
not when I do my good work. That's not the type of energy I should be putting into my work. Which makes sense to me. Like, do you want a cranky ass doctor showing up and being like, I don't even care, right? There are
No.
techniques for me to light myself up. It's not a an excuse to get off of working hard, but like I'm not supposed to like just sit there and be sad about the thing that I'm doing. I see this a lot in marketing. Like
Hmm.
if I'm lit up by putting a message out, that's the one to put out. I'm not supposed to be, writing these Facebook ads every moment for the whatever. Like that doesn't spark me. It doesn't feel congruent with who I am for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
For some people that's an educational tool where they get to like share their message and feel really great about it, and that is in
Mm-hmm.
alignment with them. So
It's like the Maria Kondo marketing strategy,
yes,
right? Like
yes,
lift up
does
this
this
marketing in
spark
your
joy?
hand. Does this spark joy? And then do it. All right. I like it.
Yeah,
Not just
yeah.
clothes,
So
folks. It's everywhere. Okay.
it I think that's actually some really good advice. Yeah, whatever sparks joy, keep it close.
Yeah.
So that freed me up. There was a period of time in the middle of building Rise when I was like, I'm not quite where I want to be. People are telling me to do it this way. And so I should, and I would get kind of like stressed out about it. And then I would put myself down for not doing the type of work I saw other entrepreneurs doing. And that actually sort of squished my capacity to enjoy what was already working quite well. So
Mm-hmm.
changing that to being productive in a way that was in alignment and made me feel regenerated and made me feel congruent and authentic
Mm-hmm.
really helped.
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend that as just a
Mm-hmm.
tool to kind of look at how you should be productive in the world, because doing it the way you feel aligned changes your whole business.
It's
Because then
true.
there's no part of your business that you are dreading or
Indeed.
hating or slugging through, right? Like, how do you make all of the parts of it as enjoyable as possible? I really think that when we're in our integrity and in a good alignment, that's when we actually connect from the heart with someone we're networking with, right? And we're having
It's
a
true.
real conversation, not an agenda
Mm-hmm.
conversation.
Totally. And for brokers, they say to build your business, you have to do open houses, right? And
Yeah.
so there's all these people doing open houses. And I would say less than half of them get joy out of it.
Yeah.
So one or two things have to change, right? One, they have to figure out how to do open houses that they actually enjoy.
Yeah.
because it is a great way to build a business, and or figure out they just hate open houses and they shouldn't be there because they're not
Yeah.
going to get any business because they're there sort of hating what they do, right? Like it goes
Yes.
together. So what else could I do if I'm a broker who's being told repeatedly, you have to do open houses, and I show up and I put up my sign and I sit there hating it for 3 hours and I'm checking a box
Yes.
and my business isn't growing? Surprise. No, of course it's
Yes.
not, right?
Yeah.
It's not in alignment. Yeah.
I think it's really powerful to check on industry standards
Yeah.
and ask both, like, why do we as an industry do this? Right? Is this something that is outdated that we need to look at as an industry? But
Yeah.
opting in on your own for sure, like, does this feel congruent with the business I
Yeah.
want to create? If it's a tried and true method that does not feel congruent for you, you have to find something else. Like, it's not just a now you're let off the hook from investing in this business you're growing,
Totally.
right? Right?
Yes.
It's what else then do I slide into this time slot that really is an expression of who I am in my
Hmm.
most like aligned state?
Yeah. I'm going to
Yeah,
reference one of my mentors, and I've referenced him before. And I don't know, Sierra, if you've met him. His name is Scott Monroe. And he
I've
told me
heard
the other
about Scott.
day that he might be on the show. I'm still twisting his arm. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But one of my favorite things about Scott is that if you say to him, how's your social media marketing? He'll laugh out loud because he
Hmm.
doesn't have any. He doesn't even have a Facebook account, right? So this guy makes millions of dollars a year in real estate. But more importantly, of the some 60 transactions he does every year, every one of those people know him personally,
Yeah.
have had him show up in person, probably have received some sort of extra care from him. So if you shadow this guy every day, he's driving around fixing a fence, meeting this person, connecting this person who has nothing to do with real estate with one of his friends. He is in their lives in a contributing way, regardless, right?
Oh,
And
that's so
so
true. Yeah.
again, back to that, find your way, and what you find that brings you joy, you'll find other people around you, to support that, and then
Yeah.
you'll have success, right? The money will come. The money's sort of like over here, and it'll come.
Yeah.
And hearing that as a new professional, you're like, but I need to pay my bills, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little
Yeah.
bit hard to trust that, but
Yes.
it's true,
That's a
part
real
of the
thing.
process.
And the
Yeah,
second part of that is, of course, the most powerful marketing is treating people so well, authentically, that they can't help but talk about you in the world.
yeah.
Like, leave the impact that you probably genuinely want to be leaving on people. Show up that way.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of feeling in alignment. Like I said with like, you don't want a cranky doctor walking in. Like, you're like,
All right.
something's wrong with this person, right? So be on the lookout for the way that you can sincerely support the people you are working with, and that is going to build on itself and pay dividends.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds like the way that Scott shows up, people can see his authentic care, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, I want to work with that guy. I want to work with someone who authentically cares.
Mm-hmm.
There's
For
no
sure.
substitute for that. It's definitely not a Facebook ad, right? That will
Right.
substitute or
Exactly.
make up for that, right?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So, Sierra, before we kind of finish up, is there anything else that you could think that brokers could hear from you or learn from you in your success story? And first of all, thank you for all. There's so many. I was taking notes over here, so I can't. It's
Oh,
always good to talk to you. I always get something out of it,
oh,
and I
same,
think they're
Jen.
going to get a lot out of it too. But any last words?
I guess the only other thing that's coming to mind is it's so ingrained in the type of work that I do that I'll say this out loud too. Because I'm steeped in the kind of medicine that I'm steeped in, it goes with the territory to take really good care of my body as well as I'm doing this, right? So making sure I'm sleeping, making sure I'm getting good meals that have protein and healthy fats for brain function, taking care of my stress levels, all of this comes into how do I create the best brain function that I also can there? And I think that in entrepreneurship, we often sacrifice our health for this dream that we're pursuing. And I just want
Mm-hmm.
to put in a plug for like continuing your health with your dream is going to help you make your dream that much more real and allow you to experience the benefits of this dream you just built exponentially more, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like, don't
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice your sleep and your mental health and your physical health for this thing you're building. Create that as you do so that you can live a life that you can enjoy what you're doing.
I love it.
That's the last
So
one.
so important.
Yeah,
So important.
yeah, totally.
Lovely. So just before we end, by the way, folks, Rise Collective is on Queen Anne on Aloha Street. If you're looking for her, that's where she is. But besides the work that you do, tell us who else is in your collective.
Oh my gosh, we have the best people ever. So the first person you'll meet is Molly. Molly is our chief of staff extraordinaire. She
She
takes
is. It's
wonderful
true.
care of us and wonderful care of every single person who walks in. She will know what your aunt's name is, like what your favorite food is. She'll probably bring
Yeah.
you flowers at some point. She'll try to feed you a meat stick. She is just the heart of our practice, and we're grateful for her every day. Next door to me is Mel Morris. She's our chiropractor. She is one of the raddest people I've ever met in my life. And she has the most gentle hands and like most generous soul of a practitioner. Mel is in it for the service
Mm-hmm.
so open-heartedly, but she's
Mm-hmm.
also a freaking whiz. She like fixed my knee this week and I'm deeply grateful for her. So having her next door is incredible.
Yeah.
From there, it's Dr. Jessica Wendling. She's a neurofeedback specialist. So she works with how do we optimize brain function for both executive success or to reduce symptoms of ADD or ADHD,
Mm.
OCD, depression, anxiety. She can do that without using medication or talk therapy. It's pretty incredible. She does something called neurofeedback, worth looking into.
Mm-hmm.
Amira And is our esthetician. She gives hydrofacials in our office. So if you want like the most glowing skin of your life and the most entertaining 45 minutes you have ever had,
I
you
believe
hang with
that.
Amira.
Mm-hmm.
And then our massage therapist, Lisa Hernandez, is down the hall. She's our fifth room. One of the most incredible body workers I've come across. She does
Mm.
cupping and massage and even intraoral massage. She's
Wow.
pretty much a pain eraser. She's
Mm.
incredibly intuitive at what she does. And man, I work with her with patients all the time. We have really complementary practices for each other. So Lisa is just a wizard. She gives CBD massages, 60 or 90 minutes, and they're the most epic massages of your life. So
I
I
love it.
can't, I could rave about my team all day long. We have weekly meetings and just, it's a love fest. We just sit there and gush on each other. So
That's right.
that's
Aren't
us.
we great? I love it.
We're the
That
best.
that's so good.
We're kind of the best.
Hey, not kind of. I think that's true. Well, hey, again, a big thanks to you for giving up your time and sharing with us all of the stories. And obviously, I don't think it'll be any surprise to anyone that you are where you are, given the practices that you do and the way you care for people. And so big shout out to Rise Collective and specifically to you, Dr. Sear. Thanks for being
Thank
on Pocket
you.
Hours.
It was so delightful to have this conversation, Jen. I always love every time we get to talk and deep dive, and also have been so inspired watching you grow this thing that's so authentic and such an expression of who you are in the world and who you are wanting to be and what you're trying to create here. So I
Yay.
get the same kind of inspiration just watching your journey. Thanks for
Thank you
having
so
me.
much.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you so much for listening in to Pocket Hours. I hope this has been interesting, fun, made you laugh, made you think, spurred you on to do and implement some new things in your business. I appreciate your time and hope this has been a good use of it, period. Now, go be the agent you would hire.